The only thing we would catch me doing with any of those books and textbooks was probably drawing the Slipknot S into one of the books and like coloring eyes and teeth and stuff, and turn to page 69 and then there's a picture, something.
I was just thinking that. Yeah, you beat me to it. I did that stuff, that's for sure.
Yep.
The 90s Nightmares Podcast.
Hello and welcome to your new favorite podcast. If you grew up watching shows like Are You Afraid of the Dark, Goosebumps, if you read all of the scary stories to tell in the dark books, this is where we all hang out now. You're here. You made it. I'm so happy for you. This show is called the 90s Nightmares Podcast. We have two hosts. I am one of them. My name is Darek.
And my name is Booze.
Hello, Booze. Happy you're here. Happy to hear your voice. And I'm happy the listeners here as well. So thank you to everybody there. We're covering an episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark that aired on October 10th, 1992. It's called The Tale of the Sorcerer's Stone. This was rated 7 out of 10 on the IMDb charts, I guess, and I liked it. What'd you think about it, Booze?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was a good episode.
Okay, cool. Do you want to rate it real quick before we ask the icebreaker question?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Same time?
Same time.
3, 2, 1, 3.5.
3.5.
Every time with this. We rated it the same thing, though.
We did.
Okay. Now, I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 because mostly for two reasons. Like we've seen this story 1,000 times and we're going to see it a lot more. This overarching, like the theme, at least that's presented. However, when you get Ray Fabi and Judy Henderson to team up on the music, which is what they did in this episode, it's automatically a winner for me.
Yeah.
And the cinematography, dude, everything was purple and green.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah.
Everything
which
was
I was into.
Extreme. Did you catch all the extreme like Dutch angles that they used, dude, just to like convey this off kilter, something's not right sense? I know you caught that.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, when I think of not going off on a tangent, well, maybe just for a super quick one. When I think of Dutch angles like that, where the camera's like pointed up and just way off, my first thought isn't, ooh, scary. My first thought is, this looks like live action Rugrats. Do you remember watching Rugrats and the camera angles were just all over the place, dude?
Yeah. That's a good. I didn't think about that connection until now, but I definitely remember that.
I always do. I never think, ooh, the cinematographer's trying to tell me something's not right here. I just think, oh, Rugrats, because you know what? When they did it in Rugrats, it wasn't like meant to be scary. It was meant to be like the point of view of somebody who's a foot tall and just looking up all the time.
Yeah.
Right. But when they use it in like TV and films and stuff, it's meant to like, just make you not feel right because something's not level and there's just a visual sense of something's not being, right there.
Right. Yeah.
So
exactly.
the music, the cinematography, that's why I rated it a 3.5 out of 5. I almost wanted to do a 4, but my gut said stick with 3.5. Where are you coming from on your score?
Yeah, I think I'm similar. I enjoyed almost all aspects of this episode. There's a few moments where I was like, but overall, for the most part, I enjoyed, the cinematography, the music, the acting, the delivery, the script, the story, the ending. Everything was pretty good for the most part. So I definitely have episodes that still are better to me. I still think Super Specs still takes the cake for me, at least thus far. But overall, this is a really good episode. So.
Okay, you have an icebreaker question for me?
I do.
Okay, I'm ready.
What is something that doesn't have to be super in depth or anything like that? What's a pet peeve of yours? What's something that kind of irks you from people, your family, your friends, whatever?
No matter who says this, my teacher, my wife, my dad, if anybody ever says multiple different, that just sends me, dude. Like, for example, if you look at a show like Are You Afraid of the Dark, right? They have multiple different stories. That phrasing just makes me so mad. You only need one of them. They have multiple stories. They have different stories. They don't have multiple different stories. And I'm probably sounding like an idiot, a neurotic, nitpicking idiot. I'm aware of that. But you asked the question, what's your pet peeve? The phrase,
that's what pet peeves are.
Multiple different is for sure one of mine. I have a second one that I just thought of too. Thinking back to like when I worked with cash handling, I would get handed a bunch of coins. And if one or more of those coins didn't land flat on the table and it did that circular sound, that sent me as well.
Really?
I've never moved so fast in my life than to stomp down that coin that's just flipping on itself.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
So those are my two.
That's funny.
How about you? I got to put it back on you. What pet peeve or pet peeves do you have?
I'll give a couple that comes like immediately to mind. The first one and foremost is I hate when people immediately try to talk to me when I'm first waking up. Like you need to give me like an hour, maybe 2 hours before you start like going right in to ask questions or have like a full on conversation with me. I'm not a morning person whatsoever. I will wake up early, but I am not a morning person when it comes to you can give me a head nod and that's about it. And just let's not talk for at least 2 to 3 hours before I'm awake, because my wife and I have friends who are like that as well. They'll like want to have full on conversations like the moment I wake up, dude, and it annoys the hell out of me. I'm just like, leave me alone, please, for like an hour. And the other one, which I think is a little bit more, maybe people can relate to, maybe more, is I hate it when people eat and they bite their fork or spoon as they're eating something. So their teeth like grind across the fork or the spoon. Like it's like nails on a chalkboard type of thing. Like even talking about it, like I'm like gripping my hands like, oh my God, why are you doing that? Stop doing that. Like that type of thing. So
I think I used to do that. I used to bite my fork, and I remember my wife and I were out at some dinner and I was starving. So as soon as the food came, I just start shoveling, right? And then I think I bit down on the fork so hard. I don't know if you can see it for the video podcast watchers, but I'm going to smile real big, and my very front tooth has a chip in it. And I don't know if you can see it.
It's from that,
but
that instance.
But there, yeah, sorry, for sure. Yeah, and I heard it. And I'm sorry to all the video watchers who just got to see me smile really big like that. But yeah, I heard the crunch that was a lot louder than normal, and I felt the pain, of course, of the chip happening. And I'm pretty sure I swallowed that part of my tooth. But
nice,
that for sure. So lesson learned: I don't bite on my forks anymore because I have a chip in my tooth.
Well, that'll do it.
Yeah, lesson learned, man. So you'll never catch me doing that. I promise.
Okay, well, all right, noted. I'll try to not differently multiple you or multiple different you either.
For sure. All right, man. Well, let me read the synopsis of this episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark? And then I will let you hit the ground running, man. Cool?
All right.
So here's the synopsis. It says, Dean, a troubled student, awakens an ancient secret hidden in the school. A short one.
That is a very short one.
Yeah. Normally they're like 2 or 3 sentences, but this is one short sentence. So
okay, all right.
That part of the show is done.
Okay,
Go ahead,
on
man.
to the
It's
next.
all you.
Good Lord. Okay. All right. We start off with the Midnight Society rolling up on a grave, and Frank is leading like the Midnight Societies. Everybody's behind him. They got a flashlight, and he's like, "Oh yeah." He's like, "Check this out," or I can't remember exactly what he says, but they're all like questioning like, what is this? Like I'm assuming, we don't really get the backstory behind it, but I'm assuming that Frank is just like, he finds this while he got there early. At least this is the way I'm perceiving it in my mind. And then he's like, oh, I want to show everybody when they get here. So he leads everybody out there. And then this part made me laugh too. Frank's like, I bet my Michael Jordan rookie card we find a maggot ridden corpse in there.
Yes, I liked that too. That was fun.
I'm like, bro, I was like, give me that Michael Jordan rookie card. That's probably worth some money right now. Like, no, don't be betting that. You know?
Give it.
Yeah.
Give it here now.
Yeah. Not long after he says that, he just like kind of darts off. The camera pans in a little closer to the grave, and then we find out that it was, maybe you remember this or correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if it was the skeleton or whatever that was buried underneath there. I don't know if it was attached to a rope and pulled up to scare them, or if there was somebody was actually in that.
No, I think that's the implication, is that it was rigged up on a wire.
Okay.
And then it was just pulled really hard from one of the other Midnight Society members. At least that's what I saw. Okay,
that's what I thought too, but I couldn't remember because I think it was Frank and Kiki were the ones behind it scaring everybody. So we got a nice little prank to start off the episode.
Man, speaking of Frank and Kiki, what a good tag team they make, right?
Right? They really do. They really do.
I think they just fit very well together.
Yeah, they got that same vibes. Yeah, for sure. Yep.
Oftentimes when you have a show that has like multiple different characters.
Yeah.
Pet peeving myself with that one. When you have a show that's got such an arranged, such a wide, number of characters, the show will often like team them up for several episodes in a row just to see if the chemistry's there. And I think they were doing that with Kiki and Frank, and I think they nailed it there, dude.
I think
from
so
memory,
too.
I don't remember if they become, obviously they're not a couple or dating, I don't think. Just having them goof off and team up on stuff like that was just super fun to watch. That was cool.
Right. I enjoy it too. Okay. And then we actually get into the meat and potatoes, at least the beginning of the story here. We get 1966 flashes across the screen, and we're shown a school at night, and then we see a figure like wandering down these hallways. And immediately, I wasn't sure if this was a kid, if this was an adult. I wasn't entirely sure, and we don't really even kind of get to know that. But what we do see is someone reach down into like a hole, like in the basement of the school or whatever, and there's water and stuff down there. First thing we get to see is a very shitty snake tattoo, which made me laugh pretty hard.
Now, this was in 1966 still, right? Is this when?
Yeah, that was when it was 1966. So
okay, well, let's just assume tattoo technology was not, as up to date as it is now.
Yeah. Let's assume that for all certain purposes. Okay, and then it looks like the figure puts something into a bucket and then dumps it or drops it back down into the hole, and we're not exactly sure what that is or what's going on. Moments later, there's a few security guards that seem to run around, and they're looking for somebody, and it's safe to assume that they're looking for this person who's hiding in the shadows to evade the security. And we really aren't given too much more information about what's going on, who this is, why she's running, why they're hiding, and then we whoosh to present day, and it's the same school. And I don't know if you remember this or not, but I like the effect of 1966, it's night, and then whoosh, and then it's present day, same angle, same image, and everything like that. I like when the show does stuff like that. If I don't know exactly how to put that into words or what that's called, you're more of a camera geek than I am, or film geek. Maybe you know what that is or not, but
I don't. Thank you for that, but no, I don't know exactly what that's called. I would just call it like a time, not a time lapse, because we know what that is, but
right,
just some visual cue to let you know that it's different now. I liked it too.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. Well, then we're introduced to, safe to assume again, this is our main character named Dean Burkham, which our narrator, I can't remember what her name is from the Midnight Society, but she's telling us about this character and telling us that Dean seems kind of like the stoner or loner type of role within the school. He doesn't really have much friends. He's not involved in sports, and worst of the worst, I mean, it sucks to not be good at sports. It sucks to not have any friends, but this dude's not even good at school either. So he just kind of sucks all around, at least from what she's telling us.
Sounds like it. Yeah. Poor Dean Burkham. He's got to be good at something.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, it's something. And she tells us he only has one friend named Alex, who is his complete opposite. So I'm assuming why opposites attract. I don't know if that's a real thing, but at least it's real in this episode. So she's good at school. She's good and she's popular. She's got other friends and stuff like that. But he's only got her. And they are in world culture class when we're introduced to both of them. And they have a special guest stop by named Dr. Oliver, who is an archaeologist teaching about ancient cultures. And she seems to be really honed in on talking mostly about the Babylonian era. Are you a Babylonian era? Are you is that stuff you're into or no? Are you an archaeologist guy? You like to dig?
No, none of the above, brother.
Yeah, me neither.
Are you? Nobody's ever asked me if I'm a Babylonian guy before. That's the first one. I'm going to add that to my list of pet peeves. All right. You got me there.
All right.
I'm just kidding. No, like going to school, like of course you've got interests and stuff growing up and they change throughout time, but no, never once like was looking at ancient artifacts. That was just never on my list of things that I thought was worthwhile or cool or wanted to do.
The only thing we would catch me doing with any of those books and textbooks was probably drawing the Slipknot S into one of the books and like coloring eyes and teeth and stuff, and turn to page 69 and then there's a picture, something.
I was just thinking that. Yeah, you beat me to it. I did that stuff. That's for sure.
Yeah. So that was what I would be doing if my teacher was talking about the Babylonian era, and I would not be paying attention whatsoever. So. Mm-hmm. But she pulls out this giant golden snake scepter and tells us that it belonged to Goth, a particularly nasty sorcerer. This moment definitely made me laugh too, because Dean's having a real moment where he is gazing deeply at this scepter the moment it's pulled out, and he's just like, all in onto it. He's really into what she's saying, and yeah. And she tells us that following Goth will supposedly bring you immense fortune and good luck. crossing him will lead you to your destruction. So we're getting a real good feel on goth here. I didn't do any research. I don't know if goth is a real thing, at least when it comes to Babylonian culture or history. So don't know if anybody wants to relay that in the comments or tell us, yeah, that's real, or because I'm probably not going to do any research after this either because I don't really care.
Dang. You know what's silly is when I was watching the episode, I made a mental note to go look and see if goth was an actual deity of something, but I did not. Mostly because I thought, given her very British accent, I thought she was saying Garth. Like this dude's name was Garth, like Garth Brooks. And I thought that's a stupid name for such a powerful deity. Yeah. It wasn't until later in the episode when I heard like the American accented people call him Goth. And then I went, oh, that makes more sense.
Yeah, I definitely, especially being this sorcerer being titled Goth, I definitely thought that he was going to have long black hair and piercings and those parachute pants and stuff like that, and he was going to be really emo, but unfortunately that's not how it turned out.
Not the case, man. One fun fact, since we're full of them, Goth in this episode was played by Stephen R. Hart, who was also in more recently The Umbrella Academy, Gerard Way's show.
Okay.
Played ghoulish face number 2.
All right.
And he was in another Netflix kind of made for kids horror show called Night Books. He played, surprise, surprise, an evil sorcerer in that show.
Well, even if that's his main role and his bread and butter when it comes to acting, he did a really good job in this episode. So it's obviously, it fits him well.
He did do a good job. If we ever get a chance to redo this, because one day you and I are making Are You Afraid of the Dark reboots, he's definitely going to have long black hair, several nose piercings, and then like that chain thing that goes from the nose to the ear.
Yep.
We're doing that too.
Yep. And he's just going to be outside smoking cigarettes the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay. That sounds good. Yeah. Yeah. So then Dr. Oliver shares a look with Dean and says, of course, we don't believe in such silly things today, do we? And not long, or I think immediately after that, the bell rings, class ends, and we find out that Alex was definitely not taking any of that seriously. She comes out kind of joking about it and prodding about it. And Dean, on the other hand, was really into it and tells her, like, I don't know, I'm kind of into it. And then he actually ends up going back into the classroom by himself to revisit some of those items or learn more or whatever. And Dr. Oliver's still in there. Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Sure.
Let's go back a couple of scenes. When Dr. Oliver said, we don't believe in such silly things nowadays, do we? Did you notice the way she was holding the serpent at him? Almost like so that the serpent could see him?
Oh, no, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, the way the shot held on the Dr. Oliver character and the serpent, both of them are looking Dean dead in the eyes. And it's almost like has to like hold the serpent around and basically be his body so he can look at stuff. And I thought that was pretty telling right there. At first I thought it was weird. Like, why are you holding this up? And why are we looking at it for so long? But then it became clear. So
okay, I wanted to make that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, yeah, he goes back in there. He's kind of like checking out some of the items, and he immediately goes up and picks up that scepter and kind of locks eyes with it and stuff like that. And she says, maybe I found another convert. I think she said, maybe I found another convert. That's what I'm here for. Kind of speaking to him. Yeah. And like, cause he's obviously into this stuff. So, this was pretty cool. I bet you probably like this one too. When he locks eyes with the scepter again and they start to glow red. And
you're right, I did like that.
Yeah, I don't know why we seem to both like those kind of moments where we get those kind of like colorful effects and stuff like that. So, and almost immediately, I don't know if you picked up on it, but I kind of picked up on it that he was kind of getting entranced almost immediately, or at least it seemed like it to me, that he kind of, his mood changed, his posture, all that stuff kind of changed, and he was almost coming in here. It looked like he was just kind of giving himself up almost in a way.
Yeah.
After that scene, we see him heading down to, I'm assuming, the basement. And I'm going to point this out to you and see if you noticed this earlier too. Earlier, I didn't notice, or I didn't say anything about it earlier because it's not really that significant of a scene. But when Alex is trying to open up her locker and Dean just walks up and just like pokes it or touches it or jiggles it or something, and then it just opens. And
yeah, that's the one thing he's good at.
I guess
picking
so.
Locks.
I guess so. Because in this next scene, when he's heading down to the basement, the same thing happens where he just walks up to this like bigger, thicker lock that's on this door, and he just like does the same thing where he like pokes it, jiggles it, shakes it, and then it just opens. No key needed. I can just do this. And
then it's open.
Yeah, and it opens.
That's so weird. So me doing the like suspension of disbelief thing, I would only assume that what the writers are trying to say is that whatever you're good at, even if it's just one thing, if you're not athletic, if you're not book smart, the one thing that it showed him to be decent at was like opening a lock. So I guess what the story is when you get possessed by this thing, it just enhances the things you're already good at, which for him is just walking past the lock, brushing up against it, and then having it open.
Yeah, his fingers are skeleton keys. They can just open up anything at this point.
Ooh, that's a cool story to think about. That'd be a good creepypasta, wouldn't it?
That would be, actually.
Having 10 skeleton keys on your hands that can open almost anything. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I like that. We follow Dean as he goes down into the basement, and we're watching him kind of like walk robotically, and he's definitely, now we're really getting the sense that he definitely is in some kind of trance at this point, and he goes over to that hole that we saw at the beginning of the episode, hoists up that bucket, and grabs the item that was inside there. We don't really get much else from that scene. We don't find out still what that is or what that item was. We just immediately go back to school, and the teacher says, "You may begin." So they're all taking a test. And almost immediately after she says that you may begin, Dean walks up and his outfit's changed. He's got a nice black long sleeve shirt on now. He's got more of a walk.
He's got some swag. He's kind of badass.
He's got that swag now. And he walks up and just hands Miss Crenshaw his test, and it's blank. And she kind of freaks out. I can't remember. I didn't write down exactly what she says, like something to the effect of, "Are you kidding me?" or something like that. Like, what is this?
She holds the test up right next to her face, and then she goes, "Do you think this is some kind of joke?"
Yeah, there you go.
Which I thought was just super silly, but you do that for camera reasons.
Yeah, you want the people to see like it's blank.
Mm-hmm. And this was a note that I wrote down that I wanted to mention. The test switch that's coming up right here was very good. A very good, like, practical effect to use. I was a fan of that.
Oh yeah, I was too. I definitely was too. They did a really good job of swapping that out or whatever the hell they did to make that work. It worked.
For sure.
Because after that, he looks at her, he kind of locks eyes with her. "Is there a problem, Miss Crenshaw?" And then she flips immediately and is like, "Oh, no problem. Thank you, Mr. Burkham." And grades the test an A+, and that's where you get that cool practical effect where the test was blank and now all of a sudden everything's filled out properly and looks like he did ace it.
That was a good switch and a good reveal. Do we think it was in that moment that he possessed Miss Crenshaw?
That was what I thought in the moment, was just like that was what I thought was, or once he locks eyes, I was getting once you lock eyes with somebody, you can kind of control them or get them to do whatever bidding he wants to do. So,
okay. I think we picked up on the same thing then.
Yeah. And then Alex catches up with Dean after the class and she's like, "What was that all about? Like, you didn't even take the test." And he's like, "No, I aced it." And she's like, "You aced it?" And he's like, "Yeah." And she doesn't believe him that he aced it. And this is where Dean kind of starts getting super defensive and he's being weird. And Alex is like, "This is not you. What are you doing? What's going on?" And he kind of goes on a big tangent about how he's, I'm not going to be this guy anymore. I'm not going to be this loser anymore, blah, blah, blah. So it's not the same Dean that we saw at the beginning of the episode now. So we're definitely getting that confirmation that something's up with this dude. He's walking weird. He's jiggling locks. He's acing tests that are blank. Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, he's super confident and good at everything now.
Yeah.
I also wrote this down too. His I'm just imagining the practicality of him like going shopping or reaching into his closet and grabbing something black, and it just ended up being like a black turtleneck from like The Rock in the 1990s. He looked like that. And then in the next scene, you're probably going to get to it, adds a black leather jacket to his look because he's like, it's cool, but it's not cool enough. So what's the go-to move beyond a black sweater?
Yep. I did write that down. I said, Dean is no longer Dean. Dean is now James Dean.
I wonder, you think that they did that on purpose?
Maybe.
Dean is a cool name, but mostly it's because, Dean's badass because James Dean, and then Dean from Supernatural is just a badass too. Yeah. But that wasn't around here. So maybe it was just a James Dean reference that they were just,
I think
gothifying.
So. Yeah. Somebody wants to slip that in there. Mm-hmm. Yep. Alex also is kind of like telling us now that he, well, Alex doesn't tell us, but our narrator for the episode tells us that he's no longer really hanging out with Alex, and he's starting to hang out with a whole new group of kids. And so it's just really adding more and more to the fact that he's off. He's doing some weird stuff. And then Alex goes into the chemistry class, and it's just her in there, and she sees Dean walk up to one of these cabinets and take something out of it. She calls him out, and he kind of just darts away.
Yeah. What's up with that?
Yeah. That's a good question. That is a good question. What you doing there, Dean? What you grabbing? She goes up there to find out, and it's I can't remember if I'm going to mispronounce this or pronounce this wrong. Is it mercuric acid?
Oh, the acid? Mercuric?
Mercuric, is that how you pronounce it? Yeah, I don't even know.
Mercurial? I don't remember.
It's just gonna be acid from now on. I'm not saying the N word anymore.
I'm from like the South. I grew up in the South, and so my R's are super weird. And one thing that I notice is that when there's two R's in a word, like rural, that I struggle with that.
I feel like anybody would be able to struggle with this word too. Just maybe it's just me.
Oh, this is
me and you, but it's weird.
It's a hard word.
Yeah.
No matter where you're from, for sure.
Right.
Okay, it's acid.
Mercury. Yeah, acid. Yes, exactly. After he darts off down the hallway, Alex follows him, and we're heading down to the basement again. And she kind of starts sneaking down there, following him, and she rolls up on him, circled up with a bunch of people, and there is a bucket or something in the center, and he's dumping a little bit of that acid in there, pulls out some kind of plants too. I wrote it down, the belladonna plant is what he called it.
Belladonna plant.
And together they create the mystic vapor and the return of Goth. He says, he's saying this aloud to the group, and I guess to himself, I don't know, but he says, together they create the mystic vapor. The return of Goth is at hand. So we know now we're really, really getting 100% that confirmation. Okay, well, we weren't sure what he was up to, but now we know, like, this dude is trying to bring Goth back. So it's too bad that Hot Topic didn't exist around this time, because then he really could bring Goth back. I'm sure they would have had everything he needed.
I would have gone down to the Hot Topic and gotten all the Goth shirts.
Yep, all the Goth shirts you need.
Man.
Yep, absolutely.
Heck yeah.
And then Alex drops her bag, and in this moment, it almost looked intentional when she dropped that bag. Like it was just like not even like her accidentally, just like flops her book bag down on the ground, and Dean hears it, the group hears it, and he yells at all of his little followers to go, and they all start chasing her, and she gives them the slip pretty easily. She like runs down the stairs, and they run past, and then she heads back to find Dean with a crystal ball or a jewel or some kind, which I think it's pretty safe to assume at this point that was what was in that bucket that he pulled out of the water from earlier.
Oh, I think you're right. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, at least that was my assumption in the moment. And then he takes it and places it in the snake's mouth, the scepter, and the eyes glow red, and the jewel glows red. And that's when we get the nice effect, the nice or Goth, the head of Goth kind of appears within that above that bucket or whatever they just dropped the acid and the plants into. And he starts having a conversation with Dean, and this is where Dean's like, yes, like I want to bring you back. I didn't write down verbatim what he said, but it's basically just he's trying to bring Goth back, and what do you want me to do, master? Like that type of thing. And
right.
He tells him that before the moon rises tonight, you must prepare and release the mystic vapors. So I'm assuming that he just released some of the mystic vapors, but apparently he must do it again. I guess that's part of the deal.
I think that was like a very small demonstration of how to do it, basically.
Okay. Now we just need to do it on a bigger scale.
Yeah. So if from memory serves, Dean was showing his followers the ingredients and basically how to do it on a small scale, so that when we get later that night, they can do it on a big scale. And let me just say, anytime that there's a story takes place in a school and that school has a pool, I get pumped.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Did you have a pool in your school? Because we definitely didn't.
No, never. You know what? Dad was military, so I ended up going to a brand new school every single year until high school, and none of them had a pool.
Yeah, I feel like that's pretty rare to see one of those.
Yeah, that just feels extra like bougie and kind of just extra, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
So I get pumped. And plus, subliminally, it makes me think of that, and I can't wait to watch this dark episode where that red zombie guy comes up out of the school pool.
Oh, yeah.
I'm pumped for that one.
Yeah,
So
that's a
maybe
good one.
I just get flashbacks of that episode. Anytime I see a pool in a school, I'm like, yes, they're going to use that somehow, and I can't wait to see how.
right. And Goth.
So Dean,
Dean and Goth are having like a conversation, and Goth tells him, do this, and all that you desire will be yours, and the power of the universe will be mine. So we understand Dean's going to get what he wants, and Goth's going to get what he wants. And then Alex knocks over something again. I don't know. I can't remember. I didn't see exactly what she knocked over, but she knocked something over again.
So clumsy,
yeah,
dude.
Very clumsy at the worst times too. Like you really just like, okay, you'd think after the first one, okay, I'm going to be really quiet and stay away from any and all objects now. Nope.
You'd think.
Yeah. And she knocks something over again. Goth tells Dean to go get her, and Dean starts chasing her, but doesn't chase her for very long. She runs into Miss Crenshaw's chemistry room again, tells her what she saw, what's going on. It's that scepter that the archaeologist Dr. Oliver brought earlier. Something's up with it. Like something's going on. And then we find out that it looks like Mrs. Crenshaw is still under that spell, or has been under that spell the whole time, because she tells Alex, you should join us. Join Goth.
Join us and join God.
Yeah, the way she did that, just from an acting perspective, it almost felt like she was messing with Alex. The same way a mom would, like, this happened on Halloween. My wife put zombie makeup on our oldest, and then she said, "Oh, you're so scary. I'm terrified. I'm going to run away now because you're a real zombie." It had those vibes to it.
Right. Yes, definitely.
Like this young lady, Alex, was going to a teacher saying, "Hey, there's something scary going on." So the teacher feeds into it like a jerk all of a sudden.
Right,
It just goes, "Join us." That's what I thought was almost happening for a second.
Yeah. I kind of got that too, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
So once she finds out that Miss Crenshaw is completely under the spell as well, she screams, runs around the school, and she continues running into a lot of these followers of Dean, and then runs to Dean himself. He kind of gives her this whole spiel, like it's a TED talk almost, like, I'm not getting dunked on anymore. I've changed. I got followers now. I'm not a loser anymore. Like I'm a big deal, like that type of thing.
Yeah.
And she's trying to convince
World's
him
first TED Talk.
Yep, it happened. You heard it first. It happened here on Are You Afraid of the Dark? And Alex is trying to convince him that this isn't him, and that Goth is controlling him, and he's not having it. He's not listening to it. Tells her, "Don't get in my way," and he leaves. And the next scene was pretty comical. I mean, maybe not comical. Again, there's a lot of stuff that happens in these shows that may be funny to some people, but I feel like I'm also just weird when it comes to some comedic stuff that I think's funny that might necessarily not be funny. But watching like the gang of these like kids get on bicycles and take off into the dust, or not dust, but fog, was just like, oh yeah, look at that. Like some edgy teens with some black clothing, leather jackets on, heading out, like off on the bikes. Like, yeah, I need some like real 90s music to accompany them as they were doing that.
Most definitely, dude. That was, for the time, that was the way to tell everybody that you're dangerous. Don't mess with me.
Yeah, don't mess with me. I got a switchblade in my pocket, type of thing. It's like Outsiders.
And there's also a comb on the other end so I can fix my hair.
yeah, exactly. So Alex follows them to a building where they now have giant barrels of acid that they've gotten from somewhere. These black barrels with a skull and crossbones on them, or whatever, the toxic symbol on there.
Biohazard, right?
Yeah, there you go. Biohazard, yep. And when she goes to leave, or she sees it, and she's like, okay, I think she says something to the effect of, all right, Dean, this is too much. I'm going to the police. And she goes to leave and bumps into a couple of the followers. Followers grab her and take her to Dean. And he tells him, he's like, put her in the van. And apparently they're driving. I don't know where they got a van or anything like that, but there's a van somewhere. We don't physically get to see it or anything, but he tells them to put her in the van.
That's a good point. I never even gave that a second thought. Put her in the van, but what van?
Yeah, they were just riding on bicycles.
Wow. Okay.
You know,
I guess I was just so into the story, I didn't even apply logic to that part of it. Oops.
Yeah, oh well, I don't think it's not really that important to the story. It's probably, honestly, it just kind of derails you more than it does anything. Then we're back to the campfire, and we're kind of just discussing the story so far. And this is, spoiler alert, this is my favorite line of the episode. is when Gary says, looks like Alex's goose is cooked.
So what happened next? Looks like Alex's goose is cooked.
Yes, yeah. You know what? I didn't write down a favorite line because as I watched this twice, nothing really jumped out at me. Other than I guess if I had to pick was when Dean was like doing his thing where he goes, "Is there a problem, Mrs. Crenshaw?"
Yeah.
And he does the thing where he just repeats her name multiple times.
There wasn't any top tier lines in this one. We didn't get like a yowza or unfortunately or anything in this one. So if I had to pick, that was because it just kind of like caught me off guard a little bit, was talking about cooking gooses, or geese.
Goose is cooked, baby.
We go back to the school. They're taking her someplace, and Dean's telling us, oh yeah, this part of the school has been closed for 25 years. Ever since a girl went in here and went mad. They found her, and I think you probably picked up on it too. It's kind of like, I don't know if young me would have picked up on it, but this is, I'm assuming that's what we saw at the beginning of this episode, was that girl that quote unquote went mad, and that's who Dean's speaking about.
Okay, yeah, that math checks out, because if that was in 1966 and then it's been 25 years, that's 76, 86, 96 would be 30, and then 91. So yeah, 91, for sure. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I didn't even make that connection, but yeah, so that must have been the same girl from 25 years ago that went mad.
Yep.
Good catch.
Okay. I wasn't sure if that, I don't know if that, I'm assuming that is what it is. So
you get one yowzer for that, Booze. Great job.
Oh,
man.
Thanks. I appreciate it. My goose is not cooked yet, so.
Not yet.
Dean pulls out the key. He actually has a key now. Doesn't need, for this door, it's been sealed for 25 years, so he actually does not have that level of greatness apparently for all locks yet. He still has to use keys for ones like this, but he does have a key for this one. And he tells us that the security guard is, he's one of the followers now, and he gave it to me. So that's how he got access to this key.
Okay, how convenient.
Yeah, very, very convenient. And then when we enter this room, it's a room with a big old pool in it. And again, we talked about it earlier. Not sure if anybody listening had a pool when you were in high school or grade school or whatever, but if you did, that's good for you, I guess. I don't know. That's I'm assuming you're probably nice. paying it. Your parents were probably paying for that private school or something, because there's no way I would have ever even thought a public school or anything like that would have a pool in it.
None that we went to.
No, at least none for either of us. And he tells us this is a perfect place to make the mystic vapors for our Lord and Savior. Well, he doesn't say Lord and Savior Goth, but I wrote that down. He tells his followers to start dumping the barrels of acid into the pool, and then we watch him start dumping these big black barrels of acid into the pool, and we get a moment where Alex kind of like glances over to this other big barrel, this blue barrel of chlorine, and we're not really sure why she's looking at it. We're not sure why the camera's telling us about it, but it's I feel like Are You Afraid of the Dark likes to give a lot of these foreshadowing moments where they don't necessarily say things, but the camera will hint at stuff that may or may not be important to the story.
They're going past foreshadowing for sure. They're straight up five shadowing when they do stuff like this, man, because the big ass label on the barrel said pool cleaner. So we're expected to go with our 8-year-old brains, go, that's how we clean the pool and get rid of goth. Maybe, I guess, is what they're going for.
Yeah. And Dean pulls out this big trash bag full of nightshade, and he's standing on the diving board as they pour in all of the acid, and looks like he's about to dump all of his nightshade into there as well. And then Alex threatens to smash the scepter and yanks out the crystal ball. And when she yanks out this crystal ball, all the followers outside of Dean immediately fall to the floor.
Yeah, nap time.
Yep. So apparently, in order for them to be up and going and following and robotic and doing Dean's and Goth's bidding, the jewel has to be in the snake's mouth, apparently. But Dean's gotten to a point now where he's powerful enough where he doesn't nap, and he's still going. He's still the only one upright right now. So, and then he dumps all that nightshade into the pool, and Goth begins to rise, which I really enjoyed this scene a lot. Again, I can't remember what was the actor's name again.
Stephen R. Hart.
Okay. Awesome scene. Awesome job. Did a really good job in this. I really enjoyed it. He fits that role very well and plays it very well. So as Goth is rising, and then he gets like kind of upright, and Alex throws this ball into the pool and yells at him to go back, and it kind of like flashes, and Dean kind of goes flying backward and up against the wall. And he kind of took like, it almost seems like he took a hit from that. And it seems like it breaks him out of his trance once that ball is, or Jewel or whatever, I'm assuming broke in the middle of that pool or something. So that does knock him out of the trance, and he's kind of back to his normal self after that.
Thank goodness. I missed old Dean, man. Yeah,
I know, right? I like the pre-leather jacket days.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, those are the good days. Goth freezes Dean as he's like kind of coming to, because he's like, oh, what's going on? Like, Alex, and he goes to try to help her, but then Goth like freezes him, or it doesn't like actually freeze him, obviously, but he doesn't allow him to move. And Goth is now going after Alex, and this is when we do get the chlorine comes back into the picture, and Dean yells at Alex to put the chlorine, and then we cut right to her just dumping this barrel of chlorine into the pool, and Goth falls back into the pool, and this big puff of smoke sparks fly, lights flare, like you get all those cool little moments. And after that, all the kids, the followers that had fallen down earlier, they seem to be back to normal. Dean's back, Alex is okay. We find out that maybe Dean was paying attention to something, because he did learn something after all in Mrs. Crenshaw's chemistry exam, because he tells us that he remembers that on one of the exams that chlorine kills bacteria, and the leaves were organic. I figured it would zap them.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Dean, see,
Well
you're not just good at picking locks, dude. You pick up on some things every now and then.
Yeah, come on, man. You can do other things. You got to give yourself a lot more credit.
That was some good critical thinking right there, man.
It was in the moment too, on the spot, like, oh man, what do we do?
What's the moral of the story then? Pay attention in school?
I guess.
Keep chlorine close by?
Yeah, keep a barrel of chlorine close by, I think is my takeaway. Because
I wonder if they sell barrels of
yeah.
Sorry, man. Sorry, I couldn't even finish. I was going to say, I wonder if they sell barrels of chlorine at Hot Topic now. We'll see.
Oh, you know what? They might.
Probably have anime stickers all over it, though.
Yeah, they would. Like, yeah, you know what this is for. I'm okay with that. I can handle that.
Dang, man. So yeah, imagine being done in by some chlorine.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I think honestly, I know it's a 90s.
Does that make
it's a 90s show and everything like that, and it's part of the story can't be perfect. But if one of the reasons why 3.5 is kind of like those little moments like this where it is super nitpicky, and it's not really that pertinent to like be like, oh man, like kind of turn your brain off for a second and just don't think about it too much. But little stuff like that, when you're 33, it kind of takes me out of it. So it did affect the score negatively, I guess, in a way for me with like stuff like that, even though I get it, I'm being super picky, but still.
I hear where you're coming from though, but I can't help but have this thought too, man. Are like you and I more powerful than Goth himself? Because when I get into a pool and it has like too much chlorine, like my skin gets a little bit itchy sometimes and my eyes are a little bit irritated for half a day. That straight up wiped him out, dude.
At this point, I think we can, take that with us.
You and I could probably take off.
We are.
Let's have this be a segment. Can Darek and Booze take on whatever monsters featured in the episode?
Okay.
Let's do that.
All right. I like that. And I think we can safely say on this one, I think we could do it pretty easily.
Pretty easily, dude. Yeah, because going back, chlorine just makes my shoulders a little bit itchy for half a day. And that straight up took him out, dude. So for sure, officially, you heard it here. Darek and Booze can take on the deity known as Goth.
Yep, we got it. No question about it.
Before we wrap, I got to do this one more time. And for those that are simply listening and not watching, appreciate you, love you, don't go anywhere. But this is a video thing. So I want to show you this, and I'll just describe it in as good detail as I can. It's the original orange Nickelodeon splat sign. Booze, you know where I'm going because you have one too.
I sure do.
So there's a shop on Etsy called Mini 3D Print Shop, and they made us custom Nickelodeon splat signs. These things are super duper cool. He's nailed the font and Nickelodeon, and you can customize it however you want. So they're not like pre-made keychains that you find at the gas station. You tell him whatever you want yours to say. He'll do it up. It looks great. It's 3D printed. You can hold it in your hand. He makes different sizes as well. Here's what's up. If you go to the Etsy shop, mini 3D print shop, and you use the discount code 90s Nightmares, you're going to get 25% off. Now, which is dope. They're already inexpensive, but to get an extra 25% off, super, super duper dope.
Yeah, very generous on his part too.
Incredibly generous as well. So here's kind of what we would like to do. If you haven't gotten yours already, hit up the shop, go get your discount, order a custom one of your own, and then send us a photo of it. I want to put like a collage of some of them together. And I think it would just be sweet to have a bunch of these floating around, man. Like we're not benefiting from you doing that. Like there's no money exchange. Like we're not getting rich over here every time you order a $15 splat sign or anything.
No.
It's just a cool way to make some friends and just to kind of show the kind of community that Booze and I hope to build.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. That's all it is. I mean, I like supporting small shops or smaller, like, homemade shops like that too. Like, and, kind of just not necessarily, like F the man, like the big brand type of stuff. But like, there's a lot of, like small shops on Etsy and other places like that make cool stuff like this that don't get the exposure that they need to. And this is one that you won't regret getting one from. I promise you that. So go grab your leather jacket, get your barrel of chlorine, and pose next to it and send it to us.
You just leveled up 3 times there, dude. Yeah. So to piggyback on what Booze was saying, you're not going to Walmart or Target to buy Are You Afraid of the Dark merch or 90s Nickelodeon merch that might have like a graphic tee section that's unimpressive most of the time. The best place to get like super, not even just custom, but just high quality retro stuff, like the stuff that we're into, is from independent creators on Etsy. So this is one of the best shops that I've found. Mini 3D print shop. Discount code is 90s Nightmares. Get yours and send it to us. Send us a photo, I mean.
Yes, do that.
Anything else before we pour chlorine on this episode?
I think that's it. I think we can pour chlorine on the fire and be done.
That was a biology lesson that I missed. It's probably not good though. All right, but let's do it, man. Booze, thank you for your time. Listener, whether you're on audio podcast version or the video YouTube version, thank you for hanging out for as long as you have. We will see you in 2 weeks.
See you then.
The 90s Nightmares Podcast.